Amen.
Tonight, Bezat Hashem, is a big merit, not a regular shiur. Usually on Tuesday nights we gather and we say, Baruch Hashem, we're all gathering, reading some Zohar, teaching some Torah, learning some Torah, taking upon ourselves a new mitzvah. But tonight, it is something that is more special. Tonight, Rabotai, is the Ilula of the tzaddik, Rabbi Pinto. You know, Rabotai, Rabbi Pinto, now this is speaking about both Rabbi Pintos, because we say that the name Rabbi Pinto, just saying the words Rabbi Pinto, on itself is already a segula, which is very unique. You know, Rabotai, you don't see tzaddikim that the secret of receiving their redemption, the secret of awakening their merit, is mentioning their name. Many tzaddikim, we read Tehillim, we do something, maybe he's said to do a specific mitzvah, but very rarely you have a tzaddik that gets up and says, say my name, and that's already a segula for redemption. And we see at Rabbi Pinto, for the past 300 years, then his name has been a segula, which is, we all have, whoever is Moroccan know that the old grandmothers, what's the thing that happens when something falls, or when somebody gets sick, what do? Rabbi Pinto, they scream Rabbi Pinto. So, to try Rabotai to understand really who was Rabbi Pinto, is something that we can't do it in one class, we can't do it in two classes. Saying a few stories won't be able to justify it. But you know, Rabotai, it's important to mention a few things of the tzaddik, just to try to grasp, and also to awaken his merit. So you know, Rabotai, like I mentioned, there are two Rabbi Pintos. There's Rabbi Pinto the first, which is the famously known one for Rabbi Pinto. Then there is the second. Now the difference between the first and the second is just one generation. So you have 300 years ago Rabbi Pinto, the famous well-known one. He had a son which was named Rabbi Eden. Rabbi Eden's son was Rabbi Pinto the second. So really, Rabotai, the gap between the years was mamash one generation. It was a grandson and a grandfather between both Rabbi Pintos. We see that throughout their lives, both of them have somewhat a connection, not just with their name, but with the way they act, with their stories, with their Torah, the way they moved around, the way they led the Kahal. You know, like I mentioned to this morning, there's a story with my grandfather's brother and with my uncle. That both of them had instances. First of all, my grandfather's brother, it was his father, it was his grandfather, so maybe he was already old enough that you were able to see him. But they witnessed, both my grandfather's brother and my uncle, that the first Rabbi Pinto and the second Rabbi Pinto were identical. And what's amazing is we don't even have pictures of the first Rabbi Pinto. So we use pictures of who? Of the second. And we put the picture of Rabbi Pinto HaKatan and we dance with it and we say, this is Rabbi Pinto, and they will have the big one. To teach you how close they were, not just with the way they looked, but the way they acted, the way their mazal was. It was like I mentioned today. It was like the same tzaddik came down a second time to take a second chance to lead Bnei Yisrael and to bring redemption upon Bnei Yisrael. So now what I would like to mention is a few stories, and we're going to go straight to our class because we're in the middle of a subject that we need to finish, Bezat Hashem, for all the men. You know, there's a beautiful story that this is just a little bit to teach us the power of how one can pray in the merit of a tzaddik, and with the merit of the tzaddik can see Yeshuot, can see redemption upon his life. It said that every single night, Rabbi Pinto, now we're talking about the second, would go to the Bet Knesset for Tikkun Chatzot. What is Tikkun Chatzot? It's you go at the time of midnight, where the sky opens up with a time of kindness, and you do a specific Tikkun, where the Zohar Kadosh says, it's like you pull a string of chesed from Olamot HaElonim down to where you are. So you create a pipeline of daylight, even though it's dark outside. That's for another class we're going to teach one day, B'ezrat Hashem. So Rabbi Pinto, as his custom, was walking to the Bet Knesset. And while he was walking, he saw a man, and at the time, I don't know what type of wheelchair it was, but a man that clearly couldn't walk. He wasn't some sort of chair that to move around from one place to another, but he was completely paralyzed. So he sees this man sitting on the entrance of the shul, and he sees him crying and crying and crying. Rabbi Pinto was known to be a man of kindness, a man of chesed. He wasn't a tough Rav. Even though Pinto are tough and good in times of when we need them, they're very... Rabbi David probably knows that. When you need a Pinto, he's there to help you. So Rabbi Pinto said, how can I help you? So he said, I came to ask your bracha. I'm paralyzed. I'm sick. I can't work. My parents passed away. I have no food. I have nothing. So Rabbi Pinto said, come with me. Let's go to the grave of my grandfather, which is Rabbi Pinto too, and we're going to go and pray there. So it says that night, they gathered 2 people, they lifted the man that was paralyzed, and they walked to the graveyard, which is the famous, infamous little building which is in the middle of the cemetery in Morocco. They arrive at night into the cemetery. It says Rabbi Pinto was hitting the grave of his grandfather, and he was screaming. He was saying, Saba, I'm not leaving here until you don't let this man get up and walk out of here with his own feet. And it said that for 2 hours he was screaming and hitting the grave and hitting the grave. That after 2 hours, the man that was in the wheelchair suddenly feels that, this is how he describes it, a feeling of sensation throughout his body. And in the end of the tefillah, Rabbi Pinto stopped the tefillah. And the moment that he stopped his tefillah, it says the man got up from his feet and started to walk. The power of a tzaddik that gets up and brings redemption. But you know about these tzaddikim, that they got to this level of miracle working, it's not stam that they woke up one day and they became who they were. It's they got to the level that where they got to from study from other tzaddikim, and from study from who? From people that don't even necessarily belong to this world. It said about that one day, this is another story that's in the book of Shnot Chaim. One day, Rabbi Pinto had a gabbai that his job was every morning to go and to pick him up from his home and to go to the Beit Knesset to pray Shacharit. One morning, he goes to the house, opens the door of the house, most probably had the key, and sees the bed of Rabbi Pinto is empty. So he walks to the shul to see if Rabbi Pinto is in the shul. He goes to the shul and he sees from the Ezrat Anashim, he hears 2 people talking. So he hears Rabbi Pinto one voice and another voice where he said it was like a young boy. So the gabbai, the helper, said, I'm not going to bother Rabbi Pinto. If it's so early in the morning and he has a young boy there, it means really he needs help. So I'm going to let him stay there. An hour passed, Rabbi Pinto comes down by himself. So the gabbai says, Rabbi Chaim, who was that boy that's upstairs now? So Rabbi Pinto says, Mechila, there's no boy here. He said, I heard 2 voices. So Rabbi Pinto looked at me and said, you heard another voice talking to me while I was there? He said, yes. So it said Rabbi Pinto took him and he sat him down and he made him swear. He said, as long as I am alive, you will never mention what you saw here today. And that man kept that secret until Rabbi Pinto passed away. And in the burial ceremony of Rabbi Pinto, he mentioned the story of how one morning he heard the voice of Eliyahu Navi. So really these tzaddikim, like Rabbi Pinto, it's not something that we can try to imagine. It's not something that the story can describe. The story that I'm telling you now is just to start to get a little feel on who they were, to get some grasp on them. You know, sometimes when we say a story about somebody, we get to know them a little bit. If we get to know them a little bit, we're also able to form some sort of connection and to ask for what one needs and to really be Hashem bond. But you know, but before I finish the speaking of Rabbi Pinto, I really want to go through the subject that we started last week. One last thing that truly seals who Rabbi Pinto II was. You know, Abotai, if it wasn't for Rabbi Pinto II, in today's generation, maybe there wouldn't be neither a Mishpachat Pinto or neither a Mishpachat Abu Chatzira. That both of these families, if it wasn't for Rabbi Pinto II, maybe both of these tzaddikim, which we all know, the famous Rabbanim that do so much good in the world, if it wasn't for Rabbi Pinto II, none of them would exist, and we wouldn't sit here in this Beit Knesset, and this would have been a vacuum store. That's what it was before it was a Beit Knesset. This would have stayed a vacuum store. Now, but it said that Rabbi Moshe, which we all know that Rabbi Moshe's wife was later on, she raised all the kids at Abu Chatzira, and she made Baba Elazar. Baba Elazar grew up in my grandfather's house, my grandmother's house. My brother remembers Baba Elazar like an older brother. My grandmother and Rabbi Moshe, my grandfather, raised all the Pinto, of course, and all the Abu Chatzira, because the wife of Baba Meir passed away early. It said that when Rabbi Pinto was 18 years old, when Rabbi Moshe was 18 years old, Rabbi Pinto one day woke up and he decided he needed to change something in Rabbi Moshe's life. At the time, Rabbi Moshe, my grandfather, was not a Rav, was not a tzaddik. What was he? He was a mechanic. So it said that Rabbi Pinto woke up one day and he said, something needs to change with my son Moshe's life. So then he walked to the shop where Rabbi Moshe worked, and Rabbi Moshe was found under a car. So when Rabbi Pinto saw him, he started to kick him. He said, get up. So Rabbi Moshe got up. He said, Ken Abba, what do you want? What are you doing here in my shop? So Rabbi Pinto said, today I received from Shamayim that if you don't right now get up and change everything in your life, Mishpachat Pinto will be erased like all the big families that exist for thousands of generations, and in today's day have no footprint at all. So it said that Rabbi Moshe writes in Shnot Chaim, he says, I don't understand. I had older brothers at Rabbi Yehuda, at Rabbi Raphael, at Rabbi Meir. Big tzaddikim. I'm the youngest brother. I'm the only brother that went out. I didn't want to become a Rav. I wanted to live a simple life. And because of me, Pinto family will be erased if I don't go in the path of the Avot. Today, 100 years later almost, we see how that thought that Rabbi Pinto was completely nivuah, was completely prophecy. Because the only son of Rabbi Pinto that continued on, and his kids continued to be Rabbanim, and were to continue down the name of the Pinto and the Torah of the Pinto is who? It was Rabbi Moshe, because of that prophecy of Rabbi Pinto. So may the merit of my great-grandfather Rabbi Moshe, Rabbi Chaim, and Rabbi Moshe, may HaKadosh Baruch Hu give everyone big baracha and atzlacha, b'siyata deshmaya. May HaKadosh Baruch Hu bet Hashem spill on us shefat b'lidei. May Hashem open up all the gates of Parasha, Yeshua, Zivug, and Mazal, and everything. And may the merit of Rabbi Pinto to protect us all and guide us and stand with us, B'ezat Hashem, to gather only with good gatherings and to B'ezat Hashem live a sweet life. To come and answer. You know, Abotai, last week we started the subject of the 7 gates of Tefillah. So as we know, Abotai, in Shamayim, there's a concept of echalot. The best way of explaining echalot, we established last week, is to say gates. Now what are these gates? These gates are essentially pathways where our prayers need to go in order to get to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it's like everything with life. If you have a big building, you have hallways, that those hallways take you to rooms inside the house. Now inside these hallways, which is Olamot HaElunim, there is what we call, like we said, gates. That our prayers need to go through these gates. So last week we started the teaching of the 7 gates of Tefillah. And we need to understand that the order that a person acts with these gates are very important. So for example, if you have a house that has 10 rooms, each room is inside another room. To go from one room to another, what do you have to do? You have to get through the door. So in order, B'ezat Hashem, to get our tefillah to where we want it to be, we need to go from gate to gate, level by level, step by step. And if we're able to know how to get step by step and to go step by step and to get our prayers to move step by step, essentially, we can do anything. Now, these 7 gates of tefillot are not closed specifically for tefillot. Because the same gates that bring our tefillot up are the same gates that bring the fulfillment down. Meaning on all the baracha, whether if it's panasa, whether if it's zivug, whether if it's refuah, and we're going to climb gate by gate. What gate brings what? No matter what it is, bracha, shefa, blessing that a person receives, it all must go through these gates. So knowing the keys and knowing how to open them is something that is very important. So the first gate that I started to last week and we were not able to finish it is what gate? Lavenet Sapir. Lavenet Sapir is the first gate that actually houses all Olamot Elyonim. That all the higher worlds are placed inside this Lavenet Sapir. Now we mentioned last week, just to do a quick overview, that Lavenet Sapir is very unique. Why is it very unique? It's unique because all the other gates have one key, which it could be Yesod, it could be whatever key that's possible, whatever key it is. But Lavenet Sapir, the first key, which according to the Zohar is the most important key, and we're going to explain why also, has 2 keys. One Malchut and one Yesod. Now Malchut and Yesod, as we explained, actually represent 2 different acts completely. 2 different acts, same core. Malchut, like we mentioned in the Zohar, represents what? Represent Nekeva, which the Zohar Kadosh says that Malchut is kingdomship, woman is kingdomship. So actually Malchut is a woman, which we say in order to repair Nukva, where Nukva is where the Neshamot of women come from, Nekeva, it comes from the word Nekeva, we must repair the Malchut. And Yesod, which the Yesod is what? It's the Berit. So last week, Baruch Hashem, all the women were either very happy or very sad that we spoke about them first. This week, Baruch Hashem, we're going to go into the subject of the woman, subject of the men, and to speak about the importance of the Shemirat HaBrit and why the concept of Shemirat HaBrit is actually not just the key to the first gate and to the first entrance of desires and of blessing that a person receives, but actually the key in the entrance to a complete life full of beracha. Now, but the Zohar Kadosh, in Parashat Lech Lecha, in last week's Parasha, says something amazing. It says, Zikuin inun Israel, dekutsha berichu natle et berito. The Parasha opens up with Zachaim. What does Zachaim mean? It's like, how lucky Bnei Israel are. What honor Bnei Israel have. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu gave them something that is called a berit. What is a berit in English? Covenant. That this covenant is not just a mitzvah, it's not just something that we're supposed to do. We take our sons and we bring them into berit, into the milah. But actually this covenant, the Zohar Kadosh says, is HaKadosh Baruch Hu's way of having a grasp on us. Where Zohar Kadosh says, what merit us Bnei Israel have, where HaKadosh Baruch Hu took his name and wrote it not with ink, wrote it with our own meat, wrote it with our own blood on each and every one of us Bnei Israel. What merit we have that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took it upon himself to make sure that each and every one of us have a piece of him, which the berit represents the Yud, which in the Yud there is the name of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What merit we have that we walk around with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, with HaKadosh Baruch Hu's name stamped and written on our own body. That actually the concept of the berit is the way of HaKadosh Baruch Hu sending a neshama down to the world and still knowing that he has grasp on it. That this man is like a stamp. It's like, but maybe we could try to understand and as an analogy, the farms that have different cows, each one belongs to different owners. What do? They take a stamp and they brand them. Why you brand? You're hurting the cow. No, the brand is actually how the farmer proves to everyone, this is my cow. This cow belongs to me. So actually the concept of the berit is HaKadosh Baruch Hu sealing and signing his presence in our lives. And there is no bigger merit that we could possibly even ask for. That's why HaKadosh asks, but why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu ask for the berit? Why did he specifically choose the berit to sign his presence on a person, on his life? So Zohar HaKadosh is about to answer something amazing, which is, like I said last week, it's amazing how HaKadosh Baruch Hu put these classes right in the correct parashot in order that we learn them in the parasha. It's like a parasha shiur. Zohar HaKadosh says, why did HaKadosh Baruch Hu choose the berit? It says because HaKadosh Baruch Hu found such a love in the eyes of Avraham, where he wanted Avraham and his kids to for always be a part of him. We saw Avraham and Zera Avraham, the descent of Avraham, the kids of Avraham, as such importance that he wanted to keep him and his kids for many generations to come. That actually, Rabotai, the berit, is the HaKadosh Baruch Hu's way of walking with us, of showing us that he is one, he stands with us, and he is always with us. But Rabotai, with this concept of HaKadosh Baruch Hu standing with us, protecting us, guiding with us, no matter where you are, if you're sleeping, if you're in the bathroom, if you're climbing a mountain, knowing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is there with you, that is something beautiful. It brings protection. But with that protection, with that bracha, comes what? Comes also responsibility. That you can't expect to have something valuable, something beautiful, something that you want to cherish and not take care of it. It's like a Sefer Torah. When we see a Sefer Torah, who wouldn't run to kiss a Sefer Torah, to be in contact with a Sefer Torah? But still, if you were to carry a Sefer Torah and drag it on the floor, and carry it with you all day and treat it wrongly, and not give it the respect that it needs, and not and feed it to its needs, just to give to try to make it more clear for us to understand. That Sefer Torah would be a blessing or a curse? It would be a curse. Because we're taking something with such value, with such kedusha, and we're essentially bringing it down to the ground and stepping on it and lowering its value. So if one's going to ask, how is the berit something that has kodesh? How is the berit something that is holy like a Sefer Torah? Why are you even comparing a berit to a Sefer Torah? It's because of its name. What does the Torah call the berit? Ot, brit, kodesh. that the Berit, its actual name, is the covenant of Kodesh, of Aharon Kodesh, of holiness. That it's the covenant of holiness. That there is no holiness more than the covenant of holiness in the Berit. So actually, when we have this great blessing, it comes with great responsibility. So Abotai, to try to give us an analogy on what really this is like, I think I gave enough analogy, but just to seal it. Nobody has any doubt of this concept. It's really that the concept of having the Berit is actually the biggest blessing we can possibly have. It's like, today, a lot of people, when you go to their homes and they have young kids, they show me that they have everywhere where the kid goes, they have a little camera that they put next to the kid, and they know exactly what the kid is doing. Or some adults even showed me to go as far as their teenager kids, they put something, I don't know if it's a little machine or it's through their phone, where no matter where they are, they know exactly where they are. That they're watching them at every given moment. You have that for your kids? Yeah. You have that for your kids? You see? So actually, now I'm going to ask you, Tzaddik, Rabbi Yoshua. Rabbi Yoshua, that, you do that from love, or you do that from the opposite of love? It's for love. You want to keep an ASM close. You want to keep your kids always with you at all times. So you put a little monitor that you know exactly what they're doing at all times. In their situation, that they know that they're being watched, what do they have to be now that they know they have something that's watching them? They have to be careful. Because everything that they do is being watched and being close. Rabbi Yoshua is watching like this on his phone to make sure that they don't go anywhere close to a place that they're not supposed to be. So actually, the Berit is the biggest blessing we can possibly do. In the Tehillim, David HaMelech says, Im tachane alai machane, bezot ani botach. David HaMelech comes and tells Bnei Israel, if HaKadosh Baruch Hu, or if Yetzer Hara in this case, will send me a machane. What is a machane? The Zohar explains, machane is what? It's all a person's enemies joining as one to go fight someone. So it's actually like a big gathering of all a man's enemies to go fight him. David HaMelech says, Im tachane alai machane, if you're going to gather all the enemies in the world, and you're going to put together all the negativity that exists, and they all come to fight a war against me, bezot ani botach. In this I trust. That in this I have complete confidence that HaKadosh Baruch Hu will be with me and I will win any war that I fight. The Zohar HaKadosh asks, what's bezot? What is bezot? When we say in Hebrew bezot, it's like we say in English, in this. In what? David HaMelech was talking about something. What was he talking about? So the Zohar HaKadosh says, David HaMelech was talking about the Berit. That David HaMelech said, in the keeping of the Berit, I put all my trust. That the man that keeps a Berit, no harm can go against him. That no matter what enemy comes against upon a person, no matter what fight a person needs to fight, even if all his enemies gather together to fight him, in this, that any man can say. Because at any given moment, a person can just look down and do what? And point in this. In this, why in this? Because we all have it. In this I trust. That in this, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring me the Yeshua. That bezot, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will win any war that comes against a person. And that is actually throughout the entire teaching of the Zohar, throughout any teaching that you study about the Berit, you're going to see something that's consistent. That keeping of the Berit, and now Rabotai, something that is very important. When we speak about Berit, there's a lot of women here, it does not speak exclusively for men. And the same thing goes for men, for women for all the men that was last week. And we mentioned Berit this week, it's the same thing for women, it's Tzniut. Because the Berit for men is it's Tzniut for women. So whatever we say now about the concept of keeping the Berit also applies for keeping Tzniut. It's the same thing. It's the same act. Why? If you're going to ask why, because if a woman does not keep Tzniut, she makes a person fall with his Berit. Very simple mathematics. So just to be clear, like I don't want anyone to feel that this class has nothing to do with them. Whenever we mention about the importance of keeping a Berit, it applies for women. And whatever we said last week applies for men as well. It's all the same thing. So David HaMelech actually teaches us, and this we're going to see throughout the entire teaching, that one who keeps the Berit, HaKadosh Baruch Hu brings him to heights, protects him, and puts him in positions of power. The Zohar HaKadosh says, maybe we can teach even a secret that it was not mentioned in its simple words, but a secret that David HaMelech wanted to teach us. That this secret comes from the word bezot. The Zohar HaKadosh says, where can we find another place where the word bezot is used? Nowhere. So the Zohar HaKadosh says, Zot, no, not Zot Torah, Zot Beriti Shalom. Zot Beriti, the same place where it's used the word Zot. This is my covenant. The Zohar HaKadosh says that the word Zot actually is another name for what? It's another name for the Yesod. That the Yesod, which is one of the Sefirot, which is actually the 9th Sefirah, has many names. One of its names is Bezot. The Zohar HaKadosh says, maybe we can say that David HaMelech was actually here to give us a big secret. We all know David HaMelech represents what? Represents kingdomship. Where till today we say Malchut David. The kingdomship of David is alive and will stand forever. Why we say that the kingdomship of David will stand forever and exist till today? Because David is attached to what Sefirah? Malchut. Which Malchut is kingdomship. Like every Sefirah, Avraham is Chesed, Yitzchak is Gevurah. So the last one, Malchut, is David, is kingdomship. We can also understand why Shabbat, which is Malchut as well, we say that it's the essence of the Malchut. Why? Because on the day of Shabbat, we act like what? We act like kings. We sit down, we rest, we enjoy the Shabbat. Ta'anuk Shabbat, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends down to the world an energy of ta'anuk, of pleasure, of joy, of pleasure. So it's really, the concept of Malchut is really represents a king. So David HaMelech is what? Is Malchut. And he also is a king. The Zohar HaKadosh says, maybe we can learn something amazing. We know that the Malchut is a very unique Sefirah. Why? What makes the Malchut so unique? So the Malchut is very unique because actually in the Malchut there is the other 9 Sefirot. That every single Sefirah stands on its own, every single attribute stands on its own. Malchut has them all together. That's why Shabbat you have such a holiness. Because you have Chesed, Gvura, Netzach, Hod, Tiferet, everything put in one day. That what makes Malchut so special, what makes kingdomship so special, that it has everything. Like a king. A king has everything. Whatever he desires is available to him at that moment. But what allows the Malchut to gather all the 10 Sefirot? What did we mention? We mentioned every Friday, Rabotainu. The Yesod. What is the Yesod? The Yesod is the bridge. Where the Yesod is the only Sefirah where all the Sefirot need to come through in order to get to the Malchut. That without the Yesod, there is no Malchut. That what brings the Malchut, what makes the Malchut so special, that it holds all the Sefirot, is the result of the Malchut collecting all the Sefirot and condensing it in one. The Zohar HaKadosh says, maybe we can learn. What is David HaMelech saying? He's actually teaching us a big lesson. He's saying, the Malchut that I am, the kingdomship that I hold, is the result of what? Of Bezot. Is the result of keeping the Berit. That if one wants to reach to kingdomship, one wants to reach to big wealth, to big respect, to find himself, to be happy, to feel, to have that feeling of osher, of fulfillment, what must he do? He must keep the Berit in order to get to Malchut, in order to get to leadership, in order to get to kingdomship. And that, Abotai, is actually the secret that David HaMelech taught us. We know, Abotai, what the Zohar HaKadosh says, that on the day that David HaMelech sinned with his Berit, with Bathsheba, and I'm not going to get into the argument, David sinned, he didn't sin. This is the Zohar, what mentioned it. If we have a problem with that Zohar, you can go see it. It's inside the Gimel, Parashat Lech Lecha. The Zohar HaKadosh says that the day that David HaMelech sinned with Bathsheba, which we all know the story with Uriah Hitti, a big voice was screamed in Yerushalayim. That this voice was a voice of like a pigeon that was crying. That this voice screamed and it said, David, azavta et beriti. David, you left my covenant. You left my presence. You left the place where I have grasp on you. You left the place where I am able to dwell in your physical form. It says right after David sinned with Bathsheba, what fell upon him? The story of Avshalom. Where his own son chased him out of the city, where his own son embarrassed him, where his own son, I don't want to get to the detail, what he did with David's wives, that his own son chased him and threatened him, that where he was kicked out of malchut, of kingdomship. Why? Because he went against the berit. Where essentially, Rabotai, the berit is like a chain. It's the chain that attaches us, and this applies for women. The tzniut, like we said, the daughter of a queen. When we dress with tzniut, we essentially represent ourselves, we attach ourselves to Hashem. So in our case, when we keep the berit, we keep that chain locked with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The moment a person sins with the berit, in that moment he cuts that chain, and that chain is no longer one. That chain is no longer together. And if you're not together with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how do you expect to reach Gadlut? How do you expect to grow, to reach to a level of respect when the main minimal presence of Hashem we don't have? Where the main minimal presence of all Jews us have, you lose it. Because of what? Because of cutting that chain, because of taking the holy Ot Brit Kodesh, like a Sefer Torah, and putting it down to the ground and showing it Chas v'Shalom disrespect. And we see this Rabotai also with Yosef HaTzadik. Where the Zohar Kadosh says that when Yosef HaTzadik was revealing himself to his brothers, he got afraid. What's going to happen to me now, where I'm going to sit in a room with my 11 brothers, because Binyamin was there, which it said that even one brother, Yehuda, was able to destroy a third of all Egypt. Yosef said, what am I going to do when I'm locked in a room together, where the Torah said that the door was locked, with my brothers, and I reveal myself to them? They're going to look at me, they're going to say, this Yosef, if he survived this long in Egypt, it means that he's what? It means that he's like one with the Sitracha. That there is no chance that you're going to go down to Egypt, become king, the most impure place in the world, and still be connected to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But even worse, the fact that he got to that level of kingdomship, it's impossible it could be from Kedusha. So Yosef said, if the brothers will think that one of the kids of Yaakov, one of their brothers, went down to such an impure place, Yosef said right away, they're going to kill me. So what did Yosef do? The Zohar says Yosef called them close. And that's why very strangely the Torah says that Yosef brought his brothers to stand very close to him. Why very close to them? The Zohar says in order that the moment he reveals himself, he's going to show them that he's keeping the berit, and he's going to show them that, look, I got to where I got to of respect, of wealth, of malchut, not because of impurity, but because of what? But because that I am keeping the berit, and because HaKadosh Baruch Hu himself brought me to this place. And we see that Abotai with Noach, and it said that the entire generation of Noach, the reason your Noach was called such a tzaddik, that some of the poskim even call him to be a rasha in other generations. He was a tzaddik because maybe in his generation, because his generation was bad. But the Zohar Kadosh says, why did Noach receive the merit to be saved? Only because he was the first one in his generation that kept the berit. That the keeping of the berit is actually the only thing that can keep a person, bring him to malchut, bring him to high levels of anything in life. It is the basic to grow. And even more than that, a lot of people, Abotai, they have a fear. When we talk about Chas v'Shalom, Gehinom, we all have a fear. When we speak about Gehinom, we get very scared, Chas v'Shalom, nachon? After we all pass away, we're all going to say we lived a long life. Most probably, we all go through our hardships in life. I'm going to leave here to go to a worse place. Hashem Yerachem. The Zohar Kadosh says that the one that keeps the berit, HaKadosh Baruch Hu does chesed with him, does kindness with him. That his neshama will never end up in Gehenna. That no matter what a person did throughout his entire life, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will make sure that kindness, chesed, will be with him, and he will somehow find a way to bring him out Zakai, to bring him out Zakai. Zakai. Zakai, it's like a man that goes to trial and he was coming out clean. Innocent. Acquitted. Acquitted. That in any case, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will bring him out acquitted. So we all ask now, first of all, how? And the Neshama goes up. How does he not go to Gehenna? The Zohar Kadosh says, Hashem does chesed with a neshama like that. Who is chesed? Avraham. Where it said that Avraham Avinu, where is his place in Shamayim? He stands in the openings of Gehenna. That he's actually one of the gate watchers of Gehenna. Where it says any man that keeps the berit, or any woman that keeps it tzniut, he stands in the door and he looks at them. If their brit was kept, or they were dressed with tzniut throughout their entire life, the Zohar Kadosh says Avraham does not allow him to enter into Gehenna. where HaKadosh Baruch Hu, sometimes it says, that where HaKadosh Baruch Hu will switch some of the judgment and some of the din from one Rasha that kept the Berit onto another Rasha just to get one clean. It's something amazing. So we can all ask, why? It's not fair. Throughout his entire life, he ate not kasher, he didn't keep Shabbat, he did whatever he wanted. Suddenly, he keeps the Berit, he goes straight up to Gan Eden like a tzaddik. So now, Rabbi Nachman gives us a beautiful teaching that we can learn what the importance of Shemirat HaBerit is. Rabbi Nachman says, Rabbi, listen to this. He says there are some mitzvot that they have the strength and they have the qualities and the attributes to clean out many averot. That there are some mitzvot that a person can do. One simple mitzvah, but this mitzvah cleans out 5-6 sins that he does. That one, it's like we say in English, 2 birds with 1 stone. That you throw 1 stone, you kill 2 birds. You kill 2 averot, you raise 2 averot with 1 mitzvah that you do. It's like there's a game where you throw a big, heavy ball on these little standing men and you drop them all. How do you call it? Bowling. You know, it's like you take mamash, you take a big heavy ball, the heavier the ball, you throw it, boom, you clean out, Bowling. Bowling? So you clean out 10 averot, 20 averot. And there are some averot, some sins, that chas v'shalom, if a person does, what happens? He cleans a lot of mitzvot. That a person could gather a big amount of mitzvot and in one sin, lose it all, like this bowling, clean it out completely. The Zohar Kadosh says that when one keeps the berit, or at least comes back with teshuvah, where he takes upon himself, from here on I'm going to try to keep the berit, from here on I'm going to try to be b'kedusha, b'tahara, to keep myself pure, to keep ot brit kodesh pure, from that place and on, he receives a place in Shamayim where no other person can receive it, not even tzaddikim. Well, what place is that? What is that called? B'makom sheba'al teshuvah. Where the essence, ha'ikar teshuvah, this is the word of Rabbi Nachman. Ha'ikar teshuvah, the essence of the teshuvah is what? It is the reparation. Teshuvah is repentance. The essence of the repentance is what? Is when a person actually does teshuvah from the berit. That the moment that a person, even is a tzaddik with everything, complete tzaddik, but he repaired the concept of berit, he goes to a level where even tzaddikim are not able to reach. And that is the power and the strength of one who comes and corrects himself. So we see that how one mitzvah can do what? Can clean many averot. The power of one mitzvah that one does. But also the power of one averah can do a lot of harm. Why is that? The sabotage is something that I want everyone to remember. Men and women. Something that if you hold this on to you, you're going to think about it twice. The Zohar Kadosh says, why is the sin of the berit and the sin of the tzniut so bad? Because the moment that a person does it, he completely forgets HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That in the moment of doing the sin, there is no man in this room that had any thought or any feeling on how this is going to, how HaKadosh Baruch Hu will feel from this sin. That the act of Shebirat HaBerit, the act of going against the Berit or going against the Tzniut, is an act that completely cuts our emunah. Where in that moment, HaKadosh Baruch Hu doesn't exist. And try Rabbi Chas v'Shalom wherever.
So how can you overcome?
Can we overcome? Rega, that's the end of the show. Usually we build up and we come to the solution. So that is why Rabotai, it's one of the hardest averot that can be swallowed by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That it is actually an averah that in that moment we have no HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We forget Hashem. We know Hashem is there, but it's like you come and you some pass. Like you put a line on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And that's why it's averah that is so important from us to stay away. But you know, Abotai, like we know, every place which there is big chumrah, every place where there is big danger, big consequence, also can bring what? Can also bring big reward. And that's everything in life. So when a person does business, the more risky sometimes a deal is, if it goes through, what happens to it? The greater reward. So sometimes when things are very dangerous, the reward is very high. You know, the Zohar Kadosh says, how do you know what is a reparation of the world at any given moment, at any given generation? how can a person get up and find what does the world need to repair in order to bring redemption, in order to repair the world. So Zohar Kadosh says, Yetzer Hara is smart, as we all know. His job is to do his best to make sure that none of us repair the world, that none of us bring the world to a better place. So what does he do? The Zohar Kadosh says that he takes the mitzvot that are key for reparation of the world, and he makes sure that he focuses that those mitzvot are the hardest to keep. That you see, Abota, in this generation, there was no generation that a person needs to be more strong when it comes up to Shmirat HaBerit. That if you go 200 years ago, even 100 years ago, for a person to get to a point where his eyes are taken out and he's megareh, legarot ha'adam.
Aroused.
To come and to pull someone's attention, to arouse his attention at the time, it was very difficult. Everyone was just bitsniut. There was no phones, there was no pictures, there was nothing. Today we live in a world, like I say, here in Los Angeles. You leave your house tzaddik, you take a 10-minute walk, you come back what? Rasha. You come back a Rasha. Why? Because on the wall, the building, there's a picture 25 feet tall. On the floor, lately you see that they start to make paintings on the floor. So really in this generation, we see that the hardest mitzvah to keep is the mitzvah of the berit. It's an avera, it's a place where we can fall. Yetzer Hara made it available everywhere. That really, we can learn from that the essence of the tikkun, the essence of the reparation, is the tikkun of the berit. And that, Abota, is actually how we can repair the world. Once we repair the berit, and once we come to a place where the berit is no longer the way it is, the Geulah, Kadosh Baruch Hu brings back to the world to what it was, the position that was before the sin of Adam HaRishon. And that we know not just as a coincidence, we know clearly from the 3 sins that Adam HaRishon did. Adam HaRishon did 3 sins. What were they? First one, Shfichut Damim. What is Shfichut Damim? Spilling of blood. Where did he spill blood? Where it said that he brought death to the world. That it said that every man that dies and his neshama goes up to the world, they look at Adam and they say, look, Adam HaRishon killed another man. That before the sin of Adam, death didn't exist. So he actually brought death to the world. So every man that his blood was spilled falls on the accountability of who? Of Adam. The second sin was what? Avodah Zarah. Idol worship. Why idol worship? Because it said that the real reasoning of the sin of the tree of knowledge was what? Was Adam HaRishon getting to a position where he can fight a war against HaKadosh Baruch Hu and become his own God. Where that was what the snake told Chava. The snake told Chava, eat from the tree and you will become God like God. That the reason the snake the Satan was exactly bidyuk kol hakavod. The Satan was riding the snake. That's what Zohar Kadosh says. So in any case, that what did the snake say? The snake said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is telling you to not eat from the tree of knowledge because he knows that the moment you eat from it, you're going to become God and you're going to take his position. So eat from the tree, become God, and push him off his throne. So actually the concept of tree of knowledge was self-idol worship. It was where Adam and Chava saw themselves in a position of becoming God. Second sin. Third sin was what? Gilu Arayot. What's Gilu Arayot? Relationship that is not permitted. Yeah. Where do we see that? With Adam HaRishon? It said that after the sin, Adam HaRishon was sick of Chava. So he ran away from Chava for 130 years. And he hid inside a river. For 130 years, he was hiding inside that river. Really, why did he go down to the river? The Zohar Kadosh says he returned back to Lili. He returned back to his first wife, and he was together with his first wife, Lili, which at the time was no longer a person anymore. She already became the mother of Sitracha. Because at that point, she was already with we know the story, we mentioned it in previous shurim. 3 sins. The Zohar Kadosh says, Avraham Avinu came and repaired the sin of what? Idol worship. Where Avraham Avinu, what did he do his entire life? He broke the statues of his father. Any man that came to him, he would make sure that he had no avodah zarah. He would clean his feet from any dust, which at the time the dust of walking was the biggest idol worship. Avraham Avinu repaired idol worship. Spilling of blood, who repaired? Yitzchak. With what? With Akedah. Where his blood was spilled in order to repair the sin of Adam HaRishon. Chesed and Gvura, exactly. And the third one, which was Habrit, until today we are repairing. Why is that? Because we said that every year, from the beginning of reading of all the Parashot of Shmot and up, what do we call this period of time? Yamei HaShovavim. What is Yamei HaShovavim? It is the time of repairing the sin of the Berit. Until today, we are all repairing the sin of the Berit. The moment we repair the sin of the Berit from all existence, at that moment, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will repair the world. And now we can understand where it said in the Zohar HaKadosh that where it says, Machot imchet zecher Amalek. What does that mean? Erase and destroy and obliviate every single leftover of Amalek. What is Amalek? Amalek was a nation. The Zohar HaKadosh says, what is this? Erasing every drop of Amalek. Where it said that if even a drop, even if one of Amalek stays in existence, the chair of Hashem is not complete. Where the Zohar HaKadosh says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu's throne, it has mamash a piece missing, that piece was broken off by Amalek. The moment Amalek would be destroyed, Amalek would be completely obliterated from existence. At that moment, the chair will be complete. Once the chair will be complete, it's another way of saying that the world will be complete and the Geulah will come. What is this concept of erasing Amalek? The Zohar HaKadosh says erasing Amalek is erasing the kilipah of Balak and Bilam. How does a person erase Amalek that the Zohar HaKadosh was talking about? It says it's actually erasing the kilipah, which we all know kilipah is what? It's like shells. It's what? It's shell. So it's like a shell of the effect of Chas v'Shalom, a bad doing. So it says that actually the shell of Balaam and Bilak is what? That is what the Zohar HaKadosh refers to when it says Amalek. What is this, Balaam and Bilak? So we know that what did Balak and Bilam try to do? They wanted to bring Bnei Israel to a place where they're vulnerable. He wanted to bring Bnei Israel to a place where they will fall, where he will be able to curse them, to a place of impurity. But so what did he do? He sent groups of women in order to make Bnei Israel sin with the Berit. And once they sin with the Berit, what's going to happen in that moment? They're going to continue the destruction, go exact opposite than the reparation. So actually, Rabotai, the reparation of the world is what? The reparation of the world is when one protects his Berit, keeps her tzniut. Because when women keep their tzniut, they avoid Chas v'Shalom any chance that a person that walks by can Chas v'Shalom fall in his Berit. But not only that, the keeping of tzniut, like all that we mentioned last week, what is it? It is one that brings upon himself the stamp of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The same way that us boys at 8 days, what do? They do the Brit Milah. In that same very way that we have a stamp on our body, the women have a stamp on their body too. And that is the dress at tzniut. So we see, Abotai, how important it is, the keeping of the Berit, the protection of the Berit, and one cleaning himself from all Chas v'Shalom impurities of the Yesod. When a person is able to get to that point of cleaning himself from all the reparation of the Yesod, he can bring an abundance of blessing. Rabotai, this is the secret that applies for the entire Torah. It's a big segula. The Zohar HaKadosh says, if a person wants to find a mitzvah that will bring him big reward, it's very simple. Go to a mitzvah that very few people keep. If you find a mitzvah that very few people keep, and you keep that mitzvah, you can receive merit that you cannot even imagine. And that's why you see a lot of times, some people, they keep these very strange mitzvot, and this is the mitzvah that brought me to where I got to. Why is that? The Zohar HaKadosh says, because every year on Rosh Hashanah, even HaKadosh Baruch Hu, he does like a budget. What is his budget? He cuts apart reward per mitzvah. So every mitzvah, he gives a certain amount of reward that will come down to the world due to the act of this mitzvah. When a person takes a mitzvah that nobody uses, that its reward is just sitting, the Zohar said he takes the reward for the entire world. Because in the end of the year, that reward needs to come down. That shefa, that blessing needs to come down. So when one keeps a mitzvah, which is maybe even hard, maybe even complicated, a mitzvah that not everyone do, that mitzvah is a mitzvah that can bring blessing upon a person that is unimaginable. Abotai, when a person keeps a berit, when a person cleans himself, all that impurity of the yesod, in that very moment a person cleans himself and unleashes these chains that we are all attached like slaves to the Yetzer Hara. That if you look, Abotai, in this subject, you see that when a person starts to fall with these sins, it's not a regular sin of a person falling here and there. It's like a lust, it's like a hunger, where a person loses all his basic thought. It becomes like an animal. That an act like that, those are the acts that we need to completely free ourselves from. Because if we can free ourselves from the acts that take control over us, we can truly be the best versions of ourselves. There is no mitzvah that we can really bring upon us more shefa than the mitzvah of the berit. So many people are going to say, but you know, Rav, it's hard. Dragging dress b'tzniut is hard. It's hot outside. We're in Los Angeles. All the men are going to say, you know, there's so much noise around me. The world is so big. How is it? It's impossible to keep yourself strong. You know, this is a secret that I was talking to somebody about this. Remember the secret. This is a secret that the Gemara says. There is one organ, beramach ivarim, the Gemara says. Yesh, ever echad. There is one organ in ramach ivarim that is the smallest organ of them all. Feed it in order to feed it with the intention to satisfy, and really, Mechila, I did backwards. Starve it. When you starve this little organ, what you are doing, you are satisfying it. Try to satisfy it. What you are doing is what? You are starving it. But sometimes we think that if a person is going to give himself a certain amount, I'm going to be satisfied with that. But it's the exact opposite. The more you feed in order to satisfy is the more you starve it, the more hungry it becomes. And the more a person starves it and kills it, the more a person feels more fulfilled, feels more saveh, more satisfied with that act, with that place in his life. Abotai, if we want Parasha, like I mentioned yesterday, because the concept of Parasha is directly attached, I don't have the time to speak about it, but the concept of Parasha directly attaches to the berit. If I explain it, whether it's afterwards, all the men that hear this are going to be in big shock and be very afraid from doing anything with the berit. The concept of Parasha attaches directly to the berit. If we want to have Parasha, if we want to bring shefa, we must keep the berit. If we want to be respected, if we want to be happy, like we said, the source of sadness is what? Is the act of chas v'shalom not tzniut, or the act of chas v'shalom sinning with the berit. If we can come to a place where we protect ourselves from the berit, we can come to a place where we can be complete with ourselves and we can be satisfied with what we have and bring down even more and more baracha upon our lives. Sabotai, for all the men that are going to ask, what's the trick to do it? How really can I do it? How can I really strengthen myself to not fall with the berit? It's very simple. What the eyes can see, it becomes a reality. What the eyes can't see, the reality is no longer existing. Shemirat Aynaim is the key. Protecting the eyes is the key to protection of the berit. If a person wants to put himself in a position where he never falls in any act of berit, make sure that your eyes are clean. And if you make sure that your eye doesn't see anything which is not b'tzniut, or if a woman makes sure, again, same thing, she can look at herself in the mirror, that's already bad. If you keep the eyes, that is the recipe. Because as long as your eyes are clean, you completely cut off that side of your brain out of existence. So actually, the keys to the yesod are what? What? The eyes. And the eyes, today's generation, especially here, is a very hard thing. We said last week, if a man is able to stand in front of a not tzniut vision and turn away his head the moment he sees it, in that moment that he turns away his head, not only that he takes himself out of a chance of falling with the berit, but also he's considered in that very moment a tzaddik. And you know, but a few people came to me, and they told me, this week, I had an opportunity to look at something that was not good, and I turned around. And the moment I turned around, I felt such a reward, such a fulfillment. Abotai, try it, do it, you will have big baracha. If we don't really, B'at Hashem, connect yourself with that mitzvah, we can come to a big blessing, B'at Hashem. Now, Abotai, as a closing, the mission of keeping the berit is the protection of the eyes. If we want to pass our tefillot, and we want all the blessing that comes down to the world to stay in our hands and to not get lost somewhere in Shamayim, and we want our prayers to go up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and to not get lost in Shamayim, the first gate that we must pass is, for the woman it's what? It's niyut. For the men it is shmirat berit. And that, Abotai, is the first gate of Laven et Sapir. So may HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us big baracha, netzlacha, b'siyata deshmaya. And may the merit of Rabbi Pinto, B'ezrat Hashem, today it is Ilula. May He protect us all. May B'ezrat Hashem give us some protection. You know what protection means? What does protection mean in English? What does protection mean?
Protection.
No, it's like I know you, you know me. I'm going to let you in. So may favor. So who you know exactly? Someone told me that today also. So may Rabbi Pinto. How do you say, let our prayers in to Laven et Sapir without doing any checkups or any research? And may B'ezrat Hashem HaKadosh Baruch Hu give us big baracha, netzlacha, and b'siyata deshmaya. Amen. No, Abotai, questions. Okay, Rabbi Aharon, even though you ask a lot, we're going to let you. Your hand was up first. Ken Tzadik.
So, the point of this discussion is about, talking about the different gates.
Ken.
So to pass through this first gate of Laven et Sapir for men and women, while you're praying or something, do you have to keep it in mind that I'm keeping the breath or I'm keeping...
No. The concept of the first gate is just keeping the berit.
Just the action.
Once you keep the berit, that gate is open for you.
Okay.
And it's like something simple. Do you know what it's like? It's like what can most houses, okay? The hardest gate you have to pass is the front door, because once you pass the front door, you're in. But in order to pass the front door, you have to be clean. If you're going to be dirty, especially in Canada, in Canada, all the houses, you take off your shoes before you go into the house. For me, it was a shock. So why? You keep yourself clean. If you're not clean, you can't enter the house. So actually, the concept of kedusha, of the first entry, is just being holy. And once you keep the berit, and once you keep your tzniut, you yourself, you are like a walking Sefer Torah. You are holy. Once you are holy, that main gate is open. And HaKadosh Baruch Hu made it in a way where that one gate that you open, you'll see, next week we're going to speak about Etzem HaShamayim, the second gate. You're going to see that it's obvious. Because this is the hardest. This is actually the gate to all gates. Succeed with Laven et Sapir, you succeed with all of them. It's a test that a man goes through, that every man and woman has to pass. If you pass the test, you pass the test. Going up the other gates, going up with anything that a man wants to do, becomes already easy. So really, it's the most important. It's not for no reason that it's the first. The first is most important. So just by keeping yourself b'kedusha, you enter. After you enter, it's already, you can have choices of how you go up and how you go there. Ken?
You know, you said Aharon standing in front of...
You can find it also in the Shulchan Aruch. Very rarely the Shulchan Aruch brings the Zohar, but the Shulchan Aruch, in Seif Samech Resh Samech, so Resh Samech to Resh Samech Zayin, it actually speaks all of the Arachot of Brit. In the Shulchan Aruch, and if you can Bet Yosef there, it actually brings that Zohar. Very rare.
So let's say a person, he kept the Brit, he didn't sin with the Brit his whole life, or from the point that he said, I'm not going to sin with the Brit, but he fell in Shmirat Anayim, sometimes he fell in Shmirat Anayim. Does that count? Is that a part of the Brit, or it's just a good barrier for yourself?
Look, Shmirat Anayim has its own different things. Its own different, if you keep your eyes, what a person can reach to, that's another thing. Okay? Because essentially you can fall with the Brit, not fall with your eyes. And that's applicable more with married people, where you see that they're not necessarily completely attached, but they have same association. The key of Shemirat Aberit for a single person, because I know that most people are single people, is what? The eyes. You know, in Pirkei Avot, especially for the single people, I want to make sure we all hear this. It says that every single day, HaKadosh Baruch Hu announces on 3 people His love and how much He respects those 3 people. The first one is what? A single person that lives in a city and is able to keep tzniut or berit. So keeping Shmirat Einayim is the key of protection. If you can keep your eyes, you're halfway done. If you can make sure that your eyes never see that something that's not bad, you can try at least. Never see something that's bad, you're already 3/4 there. It's like what we say, rachok mi'aynayim, rachok mi'alev. How do we say it? Far from the eyes, far from the heart. If it's far from the eyes, it's far from the heart. Take it away from your eyes. Your eyes give it a vessel. Your eyes give it a reality. If the eyes don't see it, the reality doesn't exist. כן, רבי דולב, בכבוד. No, but I love Rabbi's, I love Dolev. Huh? No, there's no hard ones. Doraita, כן. I already see that the question I'm going to have to answer to you in private.
Yeah, I think so too.
Okay.
Knowing Dolev.
כן. I'll answer you in private. In private. We'll speak about it, not in public. I said I don't answer a lot of things in public because it's not applicable to speak about it ברב עם, ברוב עם. כן.
So, I don't know if I could understand it correctly, but when you were speaking about Yesod and keeping the break and how it was related to David Amelech,
כן.
I was wondering if that has something to do with also the Yichud and Shomer Negia and how that was starting to be, applicable after what happened with his daughter that was sexually assaulted.
So look, the concept of Yichud is a gate. So Yichud is not necessarily an Avera, it's a gate. It's an Avera because a lot of people will fall in this place, but it's Chazal, it's Chachamim Zochar Levacham, created a gate for us to not fall. So Chachamim, at the time of the Gemara, said, look, if people, it will be permitted for just a man, just a woman, to be together, alone, in a closed room, or in a place where nobody is there and they can do what they want, the chances of them falling are high. But, also for protection on both sides. We're not going to have to get into that. Today people are so crazy. So maybe they saw this generation, how much people are mishugaim. They saw that two people alone, Hashem Yachem. Especially in the city. Wow. So what did Chachamim do? They said, okay, let's create a gate where people won't get to that place. So if people will not be able to be alone, together, with opportunity to do something, then they won't have an opportunity to do something and they won't fall. So actually, Ichud is a gate. It's a protection. It's not a sin. We're not allowed to, but it's not a sin. That's the big difference. Shmat HaMachshava, the protection of thought, the thought comes as a result of seeing. It's like you cut the snake from the head, you cut his head off, there's no more snake. The snake is dead. The eyes is it's the gate for Yetzer Hara to jump into a person. I'm going to give a better example. Chas v'shalom, there is a bad woman that is right in front of a man looking to sin. If he turns his head away, will he sin? No, because he turned his head, that's it. It's finished. He cut off the head of the snake. The snake is dead now. Or if Chas v'shalom, a person is walking and he sees a picture that he's not supposed to see. If he turns his head, will he sin? Whatever it is. Will he sin? No, you cut the head of the snake. So Shmirat HaEinayim is the Shmirav. It's the key to everything. Ken Tzadik.
So you mentioned that...
Today I'm a little bit tired, Michael. That's why if I'm a little bit slow talking, I'm a little bit Ken Tzadik.
So you mentioned that Yosef, he called his brothers to come close to him.
What do you mean that he showed them?
Yeah.
So what do you mean that he showed them?
Yeah.
It's like, I'll give you an example. It's like I'm talking to you now about, how can we give an example? You come to my store, Baruch Hashem, I'm a very successful store, okay? Very successful. I want to show you that, look, I got to where I got to because of something. So what am I going to do? I'm going to come and put in front of your face a Zohar, and hold it like this. And I'm going to say, all this success, it's beautiful, right? And I'm holding the Zohar. It's like what? What am I showing you? It's like, yes, I have this success. Why? Because I'm keeping close to me the concept of whatever I'm keeping as important. So Yosef, showing him his Brit, was essentially showing them, look, he is Mahul. What is Mahul? It's after the Moel cuts off the orla. How do you call it in English? He circumcised it. Foreskin. He becomes mahul. So once he showed them that he's mahul, it was like for them, he got to where he got to because of this. So it wasn't necessarily showing him that in something, most probably that the brothers were in such a level they were able to tell just by feeling the Kiddusha and the Tahara, because the sin of the Berit is a sin where when a person falls in it, it sticks to their neshama, it sticks to their face. If some of the men want to know afterwards why is not keeping the Berit affects the Parasha so much, you hear it, you get scared. So actually, a person's presence relies a lot on keeping the Berit. A man that keeps the Berit, naturally his presence is cleaner. You see his face is clean. People don't keep the Berit, it's like black. And when people fall with that sin, you'll see that the feeling that they have is the worst feeling than any sin. It's like a dirt. It's an undescribable sticky that people feel. Can I be safe?
Yeah. What about when people maybe don't keep the breed and they have premarital relations, but maybe they're actually people who do really well, they have a great relationship, they do well with Parnasah.
So you're saying how did they reach where they got to? So we have to understand that first of all, there are two types of people that receive rewards. And this is an entire other class on its own, where it says that Kadosh Baruch Hu gives sometimes the Reshaim the reward in this world, and takes the reward away from them in the world to come. So it's not stam, like what we say, where Kadosh Baruch Hu doesn't allow some neshamot to enter to Gehenna. Where it says they'll take all their sins, put them on someone else. Why? There's another neshama, only sinned. Hashem gave him only reward, even when he didn't deserve it. Now it's like a mine, it's like an empty bank account. Now he has an empty bank account where he deserves much less and he got much more. I can pile on top of it different things, if you want to call it, which is a little bit of a funny thought that Kadosh Baruch Hu takes the sins of somebody and puts them on another to clean someone that keeps the berit. It's a very funny thought, but again, the concept is simple. When a person has a little bit merit in this world and sin his entire life, Kadosh Baruch Hu says, look, he's a black shirt with a white dot. Let me take a pen, black pen, buy an expensive black pen and paint a little white dot. It's going to be a complete black shirt. Tzaddik did one mitzvah, Rasha did one mitzvah, he gives him reward for it. But reward where? Reward here. A tzaddik, miskin, completely white shirt, one black dot. Sometimes Kadosh Baruch Hu says he's completely white, he has one black dot. Let me take off that one, let me take off that one black dot. So what does he do? He comes and pinches him a little bit to clean off that one black dot. But again, that's an entire class on its own of why is that you see some people that they are successful and they are rich, and so many rich people that they not even Jewish, that they don't keep the berit, that they are bad people. Why is that? That's another class. Fine, if you want, we can do it. But I think we spoke about it one time. But that's a whole other class. Ken.
You mentioned that the members of your family were like really holy people who were able to do miracles. So how did they reach that state to be able to do something like that?
If you look in any book, like for example, Shar Ruach HaKodesh or Shar Kedusha, those are some of the 8 gates of Arizal, which they are essentially step by step. It's basically a how do you call step by step book?
Manual.
A manual to reach to Ruach HaKodesh. That's it writes it in the introduction. It's not a secret. It's a manual to reach to a point of receiving Ruach HaKodesh, of being connected to Hashem above just one-to-one. The first thing you'll see is protection of the eyes. And that you'll see that throughout any book of a person wanting to reach to high levels. First thing, Shmirat Einai.